Good morning, all. I'm still waiting for those to still kind of roll in. I have to do the admittance of letting people into the chat. So if you'll just be patient, I'm going to give everybody till about 10:02, 10:03 to get everybody into the course. So I'm going to go back on mute, but I'll be back in just a moment. Again, for those of you that are coming in, thank you, welcome. I'm just giving everybody, since this is a new norm, a few minutes to kind of get in. I have to admit people as they're coming into the chat room. So I'm just going to wait for about another 2 minutes and then I'll go ahead and begin. But thank you for being here. I appreciate you. All right, guys, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, you'll probably hear my thing dinging to let people back in, just like that. And as we go forward, again, I may get a little sidetracked. I want to make sure to keep admitting people, but we've got almost half the class here. So welcome to Biology 101, right? We are here in this new weird learning environment. This is very odd for me too. I am actually touching base with all of you from Chicago, Illinois. I had to come home. I had a bit of a family emergency, all is well, but I'm actually in Chicago. This was not where I was expecting to be. And so, you know, this is the new norm and here we are. I want to just kind of get the lay of the land with you all because as we move forward, I know that we're going to walk through the course, we're going to walk through syllabus. I'm going to share my screen and kind of show you the background information and how to get access to Mastering My Lab and for the biology textbook so that you can do the e-learning. And then also I want to share just some features here. If this is your first time using Zoom, I would imagine by now most of you, since the pandemic has sort of put us into this new norm, you have used Zoom in some capacity, way, shape, or form. But at the very least, if you take your mouse and kind of scroll over your screen, most of you are on mute and I can't see you guys, that's totally fine. But if you go down to the bottom, you'll see a little series of things that pop up like mute, stop video, participants, polls, chat, things like that. And then if you hit the chat button, if you have not already done so, you'll see to the right, it pops up kind of the list of everybody that's in the class right now with us. And then you'll see some different features like yes, no, go slower, go faster. If you click on the more button, you'll see a thumbs up, thumbs down, and you'll also see a raise hand feature. For the purposes here, of course, I want you guys to engage. We're going to talk about asynchronous versus synchronous learning in just a moment here, but I want to just at the very least get kind of the lay of the land with this type of learning format because it's the first day. I'm sure there's going to be questions. I know we're waiting for financial aid. We're still waiting to gain access to certain things. So if you do have a question, right, for right now, if we're going through information, just use that little hand feature that actually allows for you to raise your hand. Let me see, hold on one second. I'm actually realizing that's the clap feature. I thought that there was a raise hand feature. Now I can't see where that is.
I think the raise hand feature is only on like the Microsoft one.
Oh, is it?
I think so because
Yeah,
I would
got a little thumbs up. I saw that as a confirmation. Okay, so if that's the case, then let's go ahead and then move forward with the chat. So I will have my chat feature open at all times during the lecture. If you guys have a question, please make sure to propose it in the chat box. Again, this is all going to be information I will post to the Canvas course shell. And as I listed to you guys in the actual announcement for Friday, again, thank you for checking in with the course, that these lectures will all be recorded. So again, if you are not comfortable with being on camera in any capacity, how most of you are right now, which is I can just see your names and you are on mute, I am perfectly okay with that. I just simply want to be able to record the information so that again, as you all are presenting questions that would normally come up in a classroom anyway, for those that may not be able to attend the lecture, they can go back and see that chat feature and see how I'm sort of answering those questions in real time. So another thing too, so I'm seeing already is I'm on mobile. Will this be an issue? This should not be an issue. I have joined plenty of meetings myself through Zoom. You can propose questions. You can enter a chat. You can still engage if we call on you. This should not be an issue if you are on a mobile device whatsoever. If you are having issues, please contact me. If you aren't able to experience those features on the mobile phone, and if not, we can contact you with IT and make sure that you have access to that. The other thing I want you all to be gravely aware of, obviously, if you see under the chat feature, it says right now that if I type in hello to all, right, it's going out to everybody. Now, there is a unique feature that you can message me personally, right? Or if you click on the little everyone tab, you'll see everybody listed in the class. So if it's on the everyone, your chat is going to everyone in the class, right? So just be aware of that. If it is a personal question that you would like me to answer after class, I may miss it. And again, if it's something you would like to speak one-on-one with, I highly recommend that you send me an email and we can set up some personal time offline to discuss whatever issue you're having if you don't want to share it with the rest of the class. If you are having, I can't get access, I can't find where this information is, please propose that to everybody because somebody else in the class may be having that experience with you. So far, again, this is the new platform of where we'll be engaging in class. Again, I'm going to touch upon asynchronous versus synchronous learning in just a minute. These are the features. You all are coming in muted and the camera is turned off. I've put that feature on for you to choose how you would like to engage. And again, let's use the chat feature for any questions that you may have, okay? So far, so good? So far, so good. Okay. This is hard for me because this is usually the way that I engage you guys in class is the thumbs up and thumbs down. Awesome. Thank you, Marcia. I appreciate the thumbs up. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you all of you that are giving me the thumbs up. I appreciate it. I'm a big thumbs up fan. So what we're gonna do now is I am going to just quickly give you just a very brief introduction into the course. We will then go into the Canvas shell. I'm gonna share my screen now, and we're gonna walk through some of the major features. So just hold tight, and we're gonna get on that right now. So again, I want to welcome you guys all to General Biology for Majors. This is the first sequence. Students can take this sequence out of order. It doesn't matter because the first half of biology, which you are in the fall, is going to deal mainly with the cellular components. We'll be learning a lot about micro. We'll be going down to the micro level. We'll be learning about DNA, how DNA becomes RNA and then protein, our central dogma. And then the second half of biology, if you choose to stay on in the spring, right? That moves more into the evolution and ecology, the phylogenetics, right? How we move through animals and plants and fungus. So it really is meant that you can take them separate, but what I will say is it's definitely helpful to have this course in sequence first. Again, for most of you that are going to go on and have pre-health, pre-med, pre-dental, pre-vet, General Biology 1, the course you are in now, is absolutely essential for you to be successful in your higher level courses. So again, if this is what your plan is, if this is what your path is, you're in a great place right now for this course. So again, welcome. I'm going to pull my phone next to me just so I keep track of time. My name is Dr. Kelly Varga. I just started my 5th year in Texas, and this will be my 5th year as a professor of biology at UNTD. My background is in biology. I have loved biology for a very, very long time. When I was younger, I actually thought I was going to be a marine biologist. That was what my goal really was. And then I transitioned. I thought I was going to be an X-ray technician. And then I realized I had to do blood draws, and I'm not really that great with blood, human blood anyway. So I decided to go into grad school, and I studied neuroscience. That was my background. I did that here in Chicago. That's where I got my graduate degree from. But I have always had a passion for learning about science and life. When I was a kid, you'd always find me out in the dirt doing something in nature somehow, some way. So I always loved this. And I hope by the time you're done with this class with me, you realize how much I love science. And I hope a little of that rubs off on you guys too. So I know that we're not able to go around the room and kind of introduce everything, but I imagine you are all here because you have to take this course, whether it's a prereq for the higher level courses that you are going to be taking. Maybe you're experiencing something new. Maybe you're making a transition into some new version of a degree pathway. Regardless, welcome to this course. And again, I really hope that you find your passion somewhere in this as much as I have. And again, the question, really that I would have asked you guys in class and had time to really kind of ask and navigate and done the hand raising is, why you are taking the class. You are not hurting my feelings whatsoever. Again, if this is just a prereq for the next step of your career trajectory, again, I completely understand that. So what is the things that I can attribute to being successful in a scientific course? People that I encounter in life all the time ask me, oh, what do you do for a living? And, what do you teach? And then everybody comes up with the biology. Oh, I was really bad at that class. I hated that class. That was my worst class that I ever took. I was really bad at it. And I always say it's like eating Brussels sprouts, right? Maybe you just haven't had them cooked the right way. And so I'm a really big proponent of the fact that maybe you just haven't had this information presented to you in an exciting and fun way. So I really hope that there's an opportunity that I can kind of get in there and hopefully change your mind if that's the thing you've thought in the past. But, having some exposure, probably most of you have had high school biology or some version of a science course, you are already 1 foot in the door. You are going to know some of these terms. They're going to come back to your mind again, and you're going to go, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about these things. So that experience is going to really come back and play an added benefit for you all. And this is one that I always ask my students that they are always kind of shocked to find out, but I always like to ask you guys, what do you need to be successful from my end, right? How do you need me to be best prepared for you all so that you can be successful? And again, unfortunately, we're not in a normal situation where we can kind of engage and ask questions. But again, the idea is I know first and foremost, my expectation is to have that syllabus up to date, make sure that I'm posting announcements for you. If there's any changes in the course, exams, due dates, if I'm not going to be present, I absolutely will try and convey all information to you guys in an effective and timely manner. And that also includes your grades. I'm going to make sure to stay on top of your grades so that you can keep tabs of where you are. But really, again, the other question sort of comes down to, what do you think you need to be successful in this course? This is all new for all of us, and I'm sure this is not the way we imagined learning this type of material. So it's going to be a little bit unique. But what I do think is very interesting is to definitely understand the type of learning environment that works best for you, and to build on the trust that we are in this together, right? This is a whole new learning environment for me. I definitely did not go to school to teach you guys in this type of learning environment. I'd much rather be seeing you in person. So again, let's build that trust. Let's work on that trust. And if you have problems, the sooner you come to me and talk to me about them, the better we can adjust and move forward in real time. So the expectation for you to be here, well, that's a little bit unique because we're in a very different environment, right? When I talk about the asynchronous versus synchronous, I'll talk about the expectations. In this type of situation, there is no expectation that you are here. I'm not taking attendance. I'm not going to be doing a roll call, nothing of those things. However, if you know that you would much prefer to be in a lecture because you're setting that time aside, you know that you're present, you know you're engaging in the material at that time like you would be in class, then don't try and kid yourself. That works for you. Show up, be here, answer the questions, and we can continue to move on. If you're like, I can learn in any environment, these are all being recorded. You can go back to them at your leisure and when works for you. There is no expectation for you to be present. However, if that's the way that works best, I highly encourage that. Again, if you need help, come and see me. Obviously, seeing me is now virtually, but I do have office hours posted that we're going to go through in just a minute here. Please use that. If you are uncomfortable with seeing me during office hours because it's open for all students, then set up some time with me. Send me an email. Dr. Varga, I'm having some trouble. Can we just do a one-on-one session? There's also SI, supplementary instructions. I'm going to be posting a video for you guys. Nick Yasiro, which was a student of mine in Biology 101 in fall of last year, is now your SI student for this semester. So he knows exactly my expectations. He knows the types of questions that are coming to you in terms of exams. He knows how to prepare for the exams. So please use that as a resource. I will be posting a welcome video from him, and he's going to list out the days and time that he's available for you guys to meet with him. So please use that as a resource. Obviously, again, this is a little bit unique because most of you are putting yourselves on mute and I'm not seeing you. And again, the chat feature, I think you're all very aware of. So this isn't a respect issue of having side conversations that would maybe be distracting in class. So again, it's really just all about respect. If you have questions or you have concerns, or Dr. Varga, I just really need you to talk more about this, bring that to my attention, because I promise you somebody else has those concerns as well. This is an open door. We're in it together. Let's get through it together. And again, respect for others and time in class. So this I always just put up for students because I think this is really helpful. Each of you are uniquely different. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. I learned very different than you guys learned. One of the biggest things I always tell students to try and figure out is, what type of learner are you? I know for most of you, when you were in high school and maybe even grade school, you got sheet work that the teachers kind of gave you, and you just kind of had to go through your work and get it done for the day. You probably didn't really figure out what worked best for you in terms of your learning style because you kind of just had a routine. This is different in college, right? You have to figure out the time, the place, what type of style works best for you. This may work great for you. This may be absolutely terrible for others. Others may say, I just want the PowerPoint. I want to do the homework. I want to go into the supplementary instruction and sit in and listen to that. I don't need to hear Dr. Varga. I can learn on my own. That's great. But if you know that this works for you, use it to your advantage. Don't try and say, because I don't have to be in class, you know, I don't need to show up and I don't want to actually be present, right? So I'm getting some chat features. Okay, where do we access the recording? So these are going to be recorded. They're going to download to my computer. I have to rename the file, and then I'm going to upload them onto a web page for you guys on Canvas. So it's not there yet. It's just being recorded. It's got to go through some conversion, then it will come back. Are we able to unmute? Yes, you are able to unmute. If you need to stop me, and Mel, if you want to ask a question, please do, absolutely, by all means. And again, if there's a question that you want to propose, you can ask me, or if you want to do it offline, it's up to you. Maybe we can even, as we go on, and for those that are showing up, it could be a, in parentheses, I'm raising my hand, and I could, oh, okay, I can see someone's raising their hand, and I can look over and I can engage with you, and you can say unmute and you can ask the questions. Again, this is all new for me because in the fall or in the spring for me, I just did pre-recorded lectures because that was the survey of what my students said they wanted. Because COVID was new, students didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't predict if people were getting sick. I just pre-recorded the lectures and posted them and did discussion boards. This is a new for me too. Okay, so Jeffrey, you have raised your hand. And actually, Jeffrey, if you can share with everybody how you did that, that would be awesome. Jeffrey, go right ahead. If you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, go right ahead.
Well, I was only doing that to show that you could. If you go to the participants tab,
Yes.
it's at the bottom. So you have to click on the participants tab and do that.
Oh, I see. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yep, I'm seeing everybody else raising their hand. Okay, great. So it seems like everybody's raising their hand. For those of you that are raising your hand, you're more than welcome to unmute yourself if you have a question by any stretch. But again, if you're just practicing raising your hand, that's great. That's wonderful too. So again, if you go to the participants feature and you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it looks like you're able to actually raise hand. All right, excellent. For those that are raising their hand, again, if you have a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask now. All right, I'm going to continue forward. So again, this is really just an opening slide to sort of introduce you guys. I'm going to transition now into the Canvas shell and kind of walk you through some of those things and some of those features as well, and where to find information. So I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to transition over into the Bio 101 for Majors shell. Okay. So most of you have probably accessed or gotten access to Canvas at this point. If you have not received access to Canvas, or if you are on the wait list and you're sort of here just sort of listening in for the moment, that's totally fine. Please just contact me after class. And if you aren't able to see this when you're coming into the home screen of Canvas for this course, please also reach out to me. Again, I have posted on the home page, this is your welcome. This shows and kind of covers all the basic tenements of what we're going to be going through in the course, but there's also some other unique features here that I want to walk through. So the first is just, again, the understanding of what the course is going to cover. We've kind of gone through that briefly. It's really to walk through the molecular aspects of the cell, to understand what defines life, to understand how DNA is used to create all of the features of the cell. And then the second half of biology in the spring will really be geared towards how do cells make organisms and what is the arrangement of those organisms in terms of phylogenetics. Now, I think the big thing that you all are here to find out, which is how are we going to teach? Because COVID is still happening, because we are in this new norm, and because people are unfortunately still getting sick or loved ones are still getting sick, I am not expecting any of you to show up on Monday and Wednesdays from 10 until 11:20. However, majority of the time, I will be doing exactly this. I will show up, I will record the lecture. Whoever would like to be present is more than welcome to be here, right? And ask questions and engage as if it was a class as normal as possible. And then I will post these to the web for you guys to review if you weren't able to attend class. So that's what we mean by when we say asynchronous learning, right? We aren't necessarily going to hold you accountable. I'm not taking attendance and making sure you're here, right? If it was synchronous learning where it was absolutely mandatory, that would be the only way you would get the material, is if you had to be here and showing up 10 to 11:20 every Monday and Wednesday. That is not the case. I have found too many students, unfortunately, are dealing with far bigger things, and I want you all to be successful. The second thing, there are going to be days where I'm going to maybe get caught up in things. Obviously, this was a family emergency that brought me home to Chicago for this weekend. That was completely unforeseen, of course. So sometimes I'm going to maybe post pre-recorded lectures. So I will be adding a feature when I get off that will be an additional choice on the side here called Panopto. Most of you, if you were in over the summer or maybe in the spring of last semester or transitioning from another campus, maybe some of your professors use that. Again, it's Panopto. It's going to be a picture of me talking to you, and then it'll also be my PowerPoint going through, and you guys can kind of see both as almost as it was a real lecture, but it's pre-recorded. It's not me doing that live. And again, this is just for the sake of emergencies happen. And also, if I'm realizing that as time is going on, you all are dropping off and it's me just talking to myself on a regular basis, then I will just simply transition into pre-recording and posting those lectures for you guys to move through on your own time. So again, this goes back to that term asynchronous learning. That's what we mean. It's not in time at the actual scheduled time. So that is what we mean by mode of teaching. Oops, I'm so sorry. I went too fast. Mode of teaching, right up here. Additionally, if you have concerns about resources for campus, internet access, mobile usage, computer rental, if you need to come to campus, I have put a link in here for you called COVID Information Questions and Concerns. This takes you directly to UNT Dallas's homepage and gives you all of the resources for students and additional links for where you could possibly go if you do need resources for that. Because again, this is not synchronous. This isn't you missing class, so you don't need to email me that you're missing class, so to speak. But if you're finding that you are either sick or you're dealing with a loved one that may be sick or whatever life may be throwing your way, please email me. The sooner you email me, the better, because we can deal with it. I can know your situation and understand what's going on and keep that in the back of my head as we're kind of going through grading and all of those things. Hold on one second, I'm screen sharing, so I just needed to see what the chat is. So, what is the app called to see the pre-recorded lectures you just said? It starts with a P. It's called Panopto. And again, where Panopto will be located will be in the course Canvas shell. It's just not here now. It'll be right under here in between My Lab and Mastering and the syllabus. It'll be a big old lettering that says Panopto. You click on it and you'll see all the lectures posted once we get into that. Again, if I use Panopto, for the most part, I'm going to be using Zoom. I'm going to pre-record those and they will either go into the pages, the file, or the files. I will make an announcement for this. Don't panic. I will reiterate everything we've gone through today in lecture thus far and kind of post that out, because again, not everybody that is in the class is here today at this moment. But great questions, guys. Okay, going down then, of course, this gives you my information. Here is the Zoom link for the Tuesdays and Thursdays office hours that I will be holding virtually every week. Again, please note the big bold letters. This is for all of my classes. Now, granted, there is only 3 classes that I am teaching. One is completely online, so most of them are contacting me offline anyway in terms of email. But the other one is for my urban ecology course. And so if you are coming in to ask me questions about Bio 101 and you may be in my urban ecology course, you just need to let me know which class you're wanting to talk about. So again, hey, Dr. Varga, I'm here. I'm from Bio 101. I'd like to talk to you about cellular respiration. I'm having trouble. And in those office hours, I didn't bring the tablet with me. As we go forward, I'm going to have a big old tablet that's going to come up in the screen share, and it's going to be like a whiteboard. I'm going to be basically writing, and it's going to be like we were in class, and I'd be writing all over the whiteboard. that will also be part of the recording of the lectures. So you'll get kind of a double dose. You'll get me talking, you'll get students asking questions, you'll get a whiteboard feature, and you'll get the PowerPoint. So there's a lot of benefit to showing up if that's the way you like to learn. And again, if time goes on and I'm realizing there's only one student or no students that are coming to the live lectures, then I will just go ahead and move to that Panopto pre-recording. Okay, great questions, guys. Keep them coming. Okay, so to move forward then, just scrolling down, here is your syllabus, and I want to talk a little bit about this. So what you're going to notice is there is an aspect that you will need to purchase what is called MyLab and Mastering, and I'm going to go back up to that in a second, but first I want to walk you through what the expectations for this are. So you'll notice I have here exactly what the outline is going to be of the course, the topics we're going to cover, and the timeline. I want you to skip over this to begin with. Let's just go to these two. You're going to notice a very late due date. All reading quizzes, all mastering homework is due by the last day of classes before finals. It's a Sunday before you take your final exam. All of you may be saying, woohoo, I don't have any work to do, right? And some of you will wait until December 6th to do all of this work. I cannot stress how terrible of an idea that is. So what I have put into place for you is a suggested timeline of work for you to stay on top of it. You do not have to meet these deadlines. It is simply just if you can kind of keep on line with this suggested timeline, you've got a pretty great chance of getting all the work done and no stress so that you can prepare for your exams. Again, everything for your reading quizzes and your homework is due December 6th. But again, this green is just simply a suggested timeline. Now, your exams will be on specific dates. Those are not pushed until the end of the semester. You have to take those on the date that they are stated. You will have the whole day to take them. You will have 90 minutes to take them. They are pooled questions, so every one of you is going to get a unique and different set. The answers are going to be scrambled between students, even between that pool. So again, all of these things are to highly encourage you from not trying to think that you're going to be able to sit in the room with someone else and take the exact same exam. They're all going to be uniquely different. Additionally, I have a feature that if you navigate away from the home page, it will lock you out of the exam and you will get a 0. So again, if you're thinking, I'll be on the exam, I'll Google the question and answer, right? And again, it'll lock you out of the exam and there's no retakes for that. So the only expectation is in terms of a timeline and when you have to be present, not because you will see me, but it's to complete the exams on the due date. And again, you will have the entire day, but it is due on that day. I also have listed the material that will be expected for you to cover for that exam. Any questions so far? So again, suggested time. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yes, for the textbook, I bought the digital copy from the bookstore, UNT bookstore, and I got the access code, but I'm still unable to like get to the actual text.
Okay, let's talk about that in just 1 second because I'm sure you have the same question that others do, but great point. So if there's no questions again about the timeline, again, if you scroll down to the very bottom of this, it's going to show you how course is evaluated, the points. Again, just some other basic expectations. Please read over just the basic email etiquette. You know, I would say the first and foremost, I'm not going to walk through these, you're all adults, but the biggest concern for me is when you email me and you don't tell me the class you are from. Just simply put it into the subject line, Biology 1710 question. Now I know, okay, I'm shifting to questions that are just, some of you just don't even give me an opening statement and you just ask me a question. I'm like, I have no idea what this is in reference to. So again, just please make sure to engage in that. We have 2 participants that have their hands raised. Go ahead. So let's see. Let me answer some questions first and then we'll go through that. So can we submit the assignments before December 6th? Absolutely you can. And again, if you go back to this screen, and you look up to my timeline, all of that is in green at the top here. This one, this is the suggested timeline I'd like you to stay on. Because if you stay on it, then you are getting the material done in real time, and actually you're preparing for the exam in real time. So I highly encourage that. Other questions? I don't see it in the chat, but I did see 2 hands raised. If anybody would like to ask, please go ahead. Do we have any other questions other than the assignments before the 6th? Again, if not, feel free to go ahead and just post it in the chat so that everybody can see, and I will, it alerts me a little bit better that way. Okay, so let's go to MyLab and Mastering. Let's answer those questions. Okay, the biggest thing I would tell you is if you have not already purchased the MyLab and Mastering, that's okay. Simply go to the link here, and that is actually what I would encourage you to do. Because if you click on the MyLab and Mastering here, now granted, I'm already in the system because I'm the teacher, so you're gonna see kind of the back side of this. But it's gonna walk you through some preps of what to enter and how to enter. But this, if you go through this link, you are on a foolproof system to ensuring that you are getting access to the correct book for this course. And again, this will automatically prep you to have access to not just the book, but the MyLab and Mastering platform, right? Because if we open MyLab and Mastering, once you are signed in, you're gonna see a series of assignments, right? It's gonna kind of pop up and it's gonna show you, again, some of these features you won't have because you're students, but it's gonna list all of the assignments, what's due next, what the expectations are, all of that stuff. But if we go back here, right, under assignments, it is also, once you're into the system, it will show up all of the things that are due, and you can just simply go through and make sure you're answering and doing those assignments on time. So again, it's not that these things are due until, they're not due at any one time unless the 6th of December. But again, if you go back to my timeline on the syllabus, that's where I'm highly encouraging you to follow that timeline just to make sure that you're staying on top of the material. For no other reason than you eventually have to take an exam for this material. So if you're just not coming to class, if you're not doing the homework, if you're not doing the reading quizzes, you're setting yourself up for 100% failure to take that exam successfully. So again, whatever way works best for you in this new norm, I'm okay with. But I highly encourage you to go to that timeline. Okay, so again, point of contention. Click on the MyLab and Mastering, right? I'm not sure why we did that way. Oh, it's because it's logged me out of the system. I must have timed out. Again, click on your section, right? Biology is life. Here's the opening homepage. And again, when you log in for the first time, you're going to do MyLab and Mastering. Now, the question is, does MyLab work better on Safari or Chrome? I am on Chrome right now. I have never had a problem with Chrome. I would highly encourage Chrome. I don't believe there's any issues with Safari. The things that you're going to have an issue with is using Internet Explorer. Most everything right now in the capacity of the new web and new platforms are just not supporting Internet Explorer. But Safari and Chrome, I don't believe are having any issues. It's just Internet Explorer. So please don't use that. And it seems like somebody else has answered that they have not had any issues. So that's wonderful. So again, MyLab and Mastering, click on this and it'll directly lead you where you need to go in order to purchase the right access code to be able to successfully do the work in the course. Now, I believe it was Mel, you had questions regarding your access code. Maybe you and I can set up some time offline, a Zoom meeting, and you can share with me your screen and we can kind of walk through that. So why don't you send me an email offline and we can set up some time to walk through that. Okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Excellent. Any questions here so far? Any questions about the homepage, announcements? Again, I cannot stress to you how important it is, since I'm now not going to see you virtually, and you're going to choose to come to class or not, this announcement section is where all of the current information of I'm either not going to be available for live lecture, or I have to run out, or, you know, this has changed, the link is broken, whatever it may be. Your announcements for your courses are the most important thing to be checking in with on a regular basis. The nice part is, and hopefully most of you know this by now, you can download the Canvas app to your phone. I highly recommend downloading the Canvas app to your phone because it does a couple of things for you. One, it immediately tells you when I post an announcement, but two, it prompts you and actually sends up a little reminder when you have an assignment due. Now, that's going to be challenging for this class because everything's due on the 6th of December because, again, COVID, and I want to give everybody that time. But for all of your other classes, if those teachers are making you have timelines in that regard, it'll pop up on your phone. It'll also pop up on your phone when you're supposed to take your exam the day of. Again, it's your responsibility to stay on top of your timeline, know when these things are going to be taking place. But for the purposes of announcements and maybe your other courses, I highly recommend downloading the Canvas app to your cell phone. It's kind of like a built-in news reminder for you for courses. All right, then moving on, syllabus, assignments, that's pretty self-explanatory. We've kind of moved through those. Modules. Modules is where I'm going to be posting, again, the material. We haven't covered anything yet. We haven't done a PowerPoint slide yet, right? So there's no PowerPoint here. But I'm going to do it a couple different ways. If it's a live lecture, I'll post it here. If it's a pre-recorded lecture, I will have a link for you to go back to Panopto, or you can have just click on the Panopto link that will be posted. I will also just simply post the PowerPoint. Maybe some of you don't want to hear me. Maybe you don't want to hear, again, how you learn is best for you. So I will also post just the PowerPoints for you to move through the material. What is on those PowerPoints is what you are liable for your exams. I want to pause here. Any questions? And again, you'll see we have it all mapped out for the entire semester. Quizzes, you don't really have to worry about this, but this is where your exams will be posted, right? So your first exam is going to be September 16th. You'll see on my end, it's locked right now, and it will open at midnight on the 16th of September, and you will have until 11:59 p.m. on the 16th of September to complete your exam. And again, exams are pooled. All students get a different questions. The answers are scrambled. Again, we're trying to do the best we can to discourage any cheating. There will be a lock screen, meaning in the sense that you can't be navigating away or it'll close you out of the exam. Finally, the discussion. Let's see, we have chat. So we have to purchase MyLab and Learning before we complete it. Yes, you do. Now, in the past, this has been a tricky, slippery slope for students because usually, right, the timeline is we start to ramp up quizzes and homework in the first 2 weeks. And most of you are on financial aid and you're waiting for your financial aid to come through. This is kind of a blessing in disguise because some of you do have to wait and you end up missing kind of the first 2 assignments. Here, I have everything open until the 6th of December, but you do have to purchase that access before you can complete anything, yes. Is there a time limit on the exams? Yes, there is. You will get 90 minutes to complete 50 questions. That is what traditionally would have been a normal class period, so I am giving you a normal class period to complete the exam. And that should be plenty of enough time. Okay, I cannot see who particularly has raised their hand. Let me roll up. Okay, let's start with Marcia first. Marcia, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question.
Oh. I didn't have a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. You can
right now. Is my hand raised?
It is. And if you go back to the same place where you raise your hand, you can unraise your hand in that exact same place.
Okay, I'll do that. No question for me.
Okay. Anna, did you have a question? Your hand is also raised.
Yeah, so my question is, do we have to, do we only have assignments such as homework and quizzes that have to be completed through MyLab?
Yes,
or
you
it
do.
will also be on Canvas?
No, there will be no assignments that will be due unless it is like an extra credit assignment. If I happen to find, sometimes you guys will realize I find things cool in the news and maybe I want you to do a small write-up for an extra credit point. I will post that as an announcement and it will go into something like a discussion board, or I will guide you as to where that is. But great question, Anna. All assignments, all homework, all quizzes, all exams, everything is going through MyLab and Mastering. Now, I also want to point out something that's really great as a feature for this, because I think it's an important sell for you guys to understand what are you getting with this platform. So of course, you're not going to see the instructor tools, but if we scroll down, oops, I have 4,000 windows open. What will pop up for you guys is the student links. So if you see the student links and you click on more, right? There's a lot of really awesome stuff in here. These platforms have gotten so much better over the years, I can't stress enough. So again, even if you can't find it in assignments or you don't want to click assignments, if you click in MyLab and Mastering, you're going to see all the assignments pop up, and you can even click on My Mastering assignments. And again, it'll guide you exactly to the things that you need to do for the course. Now, you can go to your scores, although the scores will be populating into the gradebook of Canvas regardless, so you'll see that. But I also really want to direct you to the study area, because I think the study area is very underutilized by students and it's awesome. So first and foremost, you get a whole copy of the book. This book is thick and heavy and you're not having to lug it around. So that's really nice. There's study sections by chapter, breaks it down. Here's, chapter 1, 1.2 that we covered. Here's chapter 1, 1.3. It's really, really nice. There's practice tests. There's things to get you ready for the chapter, although that's basically what some of your reading quizzes are. They're kind of prep questions for the chapter itself, kind of get the juices flowing, think about things maybe you haven't thought about in a while. Animations, videos, walkthroughs. There's a lot of really great resources here. And I understand for some students, they have to sort of take the first exam to understand what type of questions am I going to get? What's the type of material? How do I need to prepare going forward? I tend to find students, if they didn't do so great on the first exam, they come into this area and they find this very, very useful. Additionally, at the end of the chapter in each book, or in the book at the end of each chapter, I should say, there's some wonderful questions that build. So like the easiest questions are the first 5 or 6. They're sort of straightforward definition answers. Then the next builds on that material and kind of is a little bit deeper. And then there's a level 3 where it sort of synthesizes all the information. I always tell students, if you can move from 1 to 2 to 3 and you feel really great about answering section number 3, wow, you know the material in that chapter, you are good to go for the exam. Do you give out a practice test to get an idea for the exam? No, I do not, because you have the feature here inside, embedded into the platform. And again, it literally is multiple choice exam type questions that the practice test area will give you. For the cumulative test, I will not be having a cumulative final. I don't believe that that serves a purpose for students. It's just a more stressful component. And again, if you take me in the spring, I tend to open up with a refresher of what Bio 1 was to be ready to prepare for Bio 2, because they're very different courses in a sense. Now, you can use the cumulative test as you get to the final exam, because most of the material you're going to be using in the final exam, probably you've built over the course of the semester. So that cumulative test might be helpful for you. But the practice test area, it literally breaks it out by chapter, and you can take the practice exam on your own. Any questions about MyLab and Mastering? Now, sometimes you may have to have Flash embedded, sometimes you may have to, right? There are some aspects that you might just have to pay attention to as you're clicking through. Sometimes students don't realize that and they get panicked and they can't get an access in. So again, if that happens, please email me. We can set up some side Zoom time where you can share your screen so I can see exactly what it is that you're looking at. Because again, most of you would have been in class showing me on your computer, oh, Dr. Varga, I can't get in, right? So that's really it for the homepage of this course and the expectations in terms of where to access the material. Any final questions here before I just transition for 10 to 15 minutes into sort of opening the first lecture? I don't see anything coming in the chat, and I see no hands raised. Okay, so I'm going to now just quickly get into just a couple of brief kind of, let's think back to what we're really getting into here with biology. And again, you know, what is the goal of this course? So we'll kind of go through these two things over the next couple of sections, but really I want to introduce the course, introduce really what the theme of this is, because what you guys will realize as we go through this course, through this semester, I will always come back to what have we built upon in the previous lecture? What have we built upon in the previous chapter? Where did we start our story? So we're starting our story. We're laying down today, what is the theme of biology? What are we aiming to do in this course, right? And so our goal for this course is really to understand how life works, right? Biology, study of life, right? That's a big, broad statement that most of you, if you're going to go on into pre-health, pre-med, pre-dental, pre-whatever, right? You're going to get into the deeper and deeper details of what life does for your specific practice, right? For veterinary school or for dentistry. But you have to understand, how does a cell work? What defines life? How does this all go together if we really want to understand what those cells and those things do for the organism that we're trying to treat? So again, how are we going to do this? We're going to look at how an organism adapts and moves through its environment. And again, how we are here today is based on how us as a species have evolved through time, right? How we look in another 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 100,000 years, if we're still here, as this version of our species, may be very, very different, right? Because we're going to have to be adapting to what the current environment is. So evolution then is the process of change that has transformed all of the life on Earth. And it began all the way back with the singular understanding of what a cell did for us to become the structures that we currently are. So as I said, we're in the theme of understanding what evolution has done for the study of life, biology, right? And so what can we do with this? We can ask a lot of really great questions, because life applies to a lot of different things. It's not just us, even though we like to think about just us. It applies to a lot of different aspects. Plants, animals, fungus, protists, you know, bacteria, even current today. Are viruses really alive? Are they not, right? That debate is still heavily weighed. And we'll talk about viruses in this semester as well. But in order to really, again, lay down this foundation of what life is, we have to understand, how does life come together? What do we define life as? And in order to do that, we have actually kind of narrowed it down to these 7 overall reaching themes of what we say the study of life is. And so if we want to classify something as being living, right, we have to look at, what is its order? What is its arrangement? How is it put together? What are the sum of its parts? How do those parts become a whole? And if I take that whole back down to its parts, how is that arrangement put together? So again, order is a very important theme for the study of life. How are we adapting to our environment? How has the thing that we're looking at today become something very different from its pre-existing version of itself, right? So again, order and evolutionary adaptation are themes of how we study life. How do we regulate? Because if we are alive, we have to take in energy. We have to consume energy. What are we doing with that energy? How are we regulating our body within our environment to be able to survive, right? Obviously, great picture. We can see that, you know, our hare here, or our rabbit, is evolved this very unique feature to regulate its body temperature in its ears to be able to hear very, very well, right? Reproduction. as we move into the next chapter, or I'm sorry, as we move into next semester, we're going to be ending this semester with, mitosis, meiosis, cellular reproduction. That's at the cellular level, but how does that lead into a species or an organism reproducing so that the species can continue on in evolution? Again, sort of kind of how regulation, a previous theme, but how do you respond to the environment? You are not in isolation. We are not in isolation. We're knowing, even though we are in isolation, we're responding every day to the news. What's the new numbers of COVID? How are our family members doing? Do I feel safe to travel? Where am I going? You are responding constantly to what your environment is telling you. That's very important. Growth and development, how do you grow? How do you reproduce? Once you are in utero, if we're thinking about a human baby, what's the developmental stages of a baby? Then how do we know that that baby is ready to be born and delivered? And then what does that child need growing up, right? These are all processes that we have to understand for the continuation of life. And finally, how do we energy process? What are our resources? Do we get our energy from the sun, or do we get our energy from the sun through a second hand of plants, right? And I'm sure most of you know the answer to that. We cannot do photosynthesis, right? So we have to obtain our energy secondarily through plants and other creatures and organisms that can do photosynthesis for us, right? But we are still consuming the energy of the sun into chemical energy for our bodies to use. So again, just to reiterate, those 7 themes, that could be a great question, right? Maybe it's a multiple choice of the following, which is not a theme for the study of life. Or maybe it's an open-ended question where I'm simply asking you, can you list out the 7 themes of biology, right? So again, this is me trying to stop and kind of gauge the type of learning material that you need to be memorizing and the type of material as questions as you sort of gear up and prepare for your first exam. Any questions so far? Okay. So again, this is just a refresher and sort of a recap. We're laying down the very first layer of our cake as we build through this semester. But if I'm a scientist and I want to understand how life comes together, I need to understand where is the level by which I'm observing, where am I making these observations? Am I studying it at the cellular level? Am I studying it at the molecular level? Am I all the way down at the atomic level? Or am I looking at a tree and a population of other trees to try and understand its interaction? So how we want to look at biology to study it is really reliant upon the fact of where we're emerging, where our properties are emerging within that level of organization. So again, life can be studied at different levels, from the molecules to the entire living planet, right? This is an enormous range of diversity and biodiversity. And so really understanding what level we're looking at it is very important to saying something about that living thing in terms of its broader context of how it survives, of how it's going to evolve. So just as kind of a fun walking down the rabbit hole, if we're unaware, you are here, right? You are on planet Earth. You're on the big blue ball floating through space and time. And again, this is what we call the biosphere. So the biosphere is all of life on Earth and everything that lives inside of it, right? So again, when we're talking about the highest order of everything on Earth, we're talking about the view from outer space, and we're looking down at what we call the biosphere. As we move down into lower levels, right, we start to identify that we have different ecosystems. We have different sets of how biology and how life is interacting within different systems across our biosphere. And we can even move further down inside of our ecosystems and say we have different communities, right? But within a community, within your community, it's not just you and your family. It's your neighbors. It's the hospital. It's the CVS. It's all of those things that actually make up your local community. And so we have to understand what is the interaction inside of that community, because there's a lot of moving things that are very different. If we go down even further, we have populations, right? So we can say we have a population of Oak Cliff, we have a population of UNT Dallas, right? It depends on the level of which we're looking at that. If we go down further, we can say inside of our populations, we have organs and organ systems. Now we're going inside of the organism that's inside of that population. And again, I'm sure you can see where we're going. We're going down way down the rabbit hole into our molecular, our tissue structures, our cellular structures, and we can go all the way down to organelles, and then finally molecules and atoms, right? We can do this one way up or down. We can start at the biosphere and come all the way down to the molecular level, or we can go from the molecular level all the way back up to the biosphere, right? And depending on how we look at that arrangement, we're going to say, what are the emergent properties as we're moving through the system? Are we starting from the biosphere and coming down? What are those emergent properties? Are we going from the bottom back up, right? So again, emergent properties result from the arrangement and interactions of parts within a system. Now I want to pause here. The emergent properties aren't what's the atomic variation compared to the biosphere. That's a big jump. But maybe I can understand the atomic level that leads to the molecular level with inside the organism. That itself could be the highest level of emergent property we're looking at. How do my atoms interact to create this organism? I haven't left my organism, so I haven't even gone above this level, right? That may be the highest level that I'm looking at in terms of my emergent property. Or maybe I'm starting all the way out here in the populations level, and I'm saying, how does the population of oak trees interact with another population of pine trees within my community, within my ecosystem? How does that define my ecosystem? So again, we aren't just looking at one level at the top or one level at the bottom and everything in between. We may be staying just within one level and looking at the emergent properties within inside of there. So again, just point of context to kind of keep these things in mind, that there's deeper dives within even just the levels that we're looking at. You can look at just that one level and it can have a variation of emergent properties. And again, emergent properties can characterize things that are non-biological, because while life is important, we interact with a lot of things that are not living. We interact with the environment. We interact with wind and earth and fire and all of those things, right? Those things are non-living, so to speak. Not earth, I guess, if you're looking at it as just the mass of the rock. But rocks and water and things like that, those things are very important for life on earth to take place. So emergent properties can characterize non-biological entities as well. Meaning, I can show you a bike, but if we can break down that bike, again, from the highest level of organization of being the bike and go all the way down to maybe identifying the chain versus the pedal, or I can look at the pedal and how the pedal is arranged and relate that back to how or what does that do for the entirety of the bike. So again, we can kind of go backwards and forwards. It depends on the level that we're looking at and what we're trying to say. So there's two versions of emergent properties I just want to touch upon quickly, and we'll kind of wrap it up soon. But we have reductionism and again, this idea that we can go back out to this emergent aspect. So reductionism is the reduction of complex systems to simpler components. For example, I can study the molecular structure of DNA, A's and T's and C's and G's, and the twisting of that double helix to understand how DNA provides the basis chemically for inheritance. How does DNA equate to blue eyes? How does DNA tell me that person is going to be tall or short, right? So I can go all the way down to the molecular level. I'm reducing all the way down to study how that organization takes place at a very low or small level. But I can't say that what I'm learning there is exactly how the organism is going to relate and come out. I have to still remember there's levels above that interact with the levels below. So again, this is really just taking the, am I looking at the very small low level approach, am I looking at how I put a pedal together to be able to allow a bike to work? Do I look at how DNA is arranged in order to tell me blue eyes or brown eyes, right? That's what reductionism is. The problem with the reductionism is we make this assumption that if you dissect and get closer to the cause, that somehow that's going to tell you that's the underlying thing. That's the thing that leads to what we see at this larger level. We know there's a lot of crazy interactions, right? Take just the dynamics probably in your household over COVID times. You've probably learned a lot about your family. You've probably learned a lot about yourself. You've probably learned a lot about your loved ones and maybe boyfriends and girlfriends or friends, right? Because, and you probably wouldn't have been able to say about those interactions without this experience, right? So we have to remember that we have these fundamental things that come out. Yes, I have hands. Yes, I have fingers. But again, how is my environment impacting what that arrangement is? So again, we don't want to make this wrong assumption. The other aspect that we want to look at here is how do we take those smaller parts, pedal of bike, DNA of cell, and how do we put that into the larger aspects of systems biology? So again, to explore how things emerge to create life, biologists complement reductionism, these very small individual pieces, with what we like to call the systems biology. So again, if we look at this picture, again, pedal, chain, bike seat, right? These are all the individual components, but how I arrange those components. Does pedal attach to bike seat? Does bike seat attach to chain? What is the connective interaction for those things to work together is now the collective understanding that we like to call systems biology, right? So again, it's just me sort of reiterating, it doesn't matter the level you study, but how the interactions between those levels are working is really critical if you want to say something about the system, right? If I'm going in and I'm trying to treat cancer, right, as a doctor, I may understand how the cells divide rapidly and that it's this particular gene, but I now need to also understand what's that person's life at home, what's their living environment, what's the type of food that they eat, do they have a fast metabolism, do they have a slow metabolism? There's a lot of things that feed into understanding how to best treat that cancer. So again, think of these things as you're moving through learning about the cell, learning about mitosis and meiosis. There's a theme that connects through all of this as we're moving through that. Okay, you guys have listened, you've been kind, I appreciate it. Most importantly, I really appreciate you guys coming and attending the first day of class because this is important for you to see how this all works. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I see that there's one more. Okay, I see there's a question. Let me make sure to answer that question. So does a person's system environment determine how their cells produce certain effects to your body? Absolutely. You have DNA, and we're going to talk about the central dogma next time. But your DNA is your blueprint, so to speak. It's your code that tells you make blue eyes, make blonde hair, make small or tall. But as you're as you're progressing throughout your lifetime, the food you put in, the environment, the air quality that you breathe, all of that is going to affect how well or how not well your cells can do the job of making DNA to RNA to protein, right? We all know that if we start putting a bunch of garbage into our bodies, we feel lethargic. We may break out on our faces. We don't sleep very well. We get high anxiety. Your cells are still doing their job, but now there's this added environmental pressure that's changing the way that those cells are able to do their jobs effectively. That is a great question. And we're definitely going to talk all about that through this course for sure. So again, thank you, you guys. I really appreciate you being here. For those of you that have participated in the chats and the discussions, thank you to those that have showed us how to raise our hand feature. I will try and be as vigilant as I can on that. Sometimes I just talk and talk and talk. And I miss you guys so much because I don't want to talk and talk and talk. I get dry mouth and it's awful. But this is recorded. I'm going to wait for it to convert, and then I will post it for you all, and I will make an announcement of where to look for these lectures going forward. So I see the Jeffrey question. I'm going to answer that in 1 second just to wrap up. Also, if I am not able to attend class, I will make sure to let you know that I've done a pre-recorded lecture for you to be able to tune into the Panopto. And again, that link will go up shortly. Okay, so what is the difference between a regular cell and a cancerous cell? Great question, Jeffrey. So that is the difference of the machinery inside of the cell kind of going haywire. And what happens is now the cell doesn't go through its normal cell cycle where it says, okay, reproduce and stop, grow, let me do what I'm supposed to do. Okay, it's time to divide. It doesn't shut that down. It just reproduces, makes 2 more cells. It doesn't wait to do its job. It reproduces, makes 2 more cells. It makes 2 more cells. It makes 2 more cells. It goes haywire. The cell cycle ramps up and it doesn't turn off. And now those cells link together and make tumors. And we're going to talk all about that for sure in mitosis and meiosis. Great question. All right, guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, if you're unable to get access, if you can't get in, please shoot me an email. We can do a Zoom call on the side so I can see your screen and look at what you're looking at. But if you are good to go and you feel confident, I will see you guys on Wednesday and we will go through this and continue our conversation. So have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to hang out here. And if you guys want to ask questions, you're more than welcome. I'll hang out until 11:20 if you have any additional questions. If not, you are free to leave the session. Have a wonderful day and welcome back to classes.
So I have a question about you said we could do a meeting where I share my screen with you, right?
I didn't realize I muted myself. I'd much rather do that for you and I to set up some one-on-one time. So why don't you send me an email, not tomorrow if it's possible, again, because we have all semester for you to complete the assignments.
Okay.
But just shoot me an email for maybe Thursday or Friday. Let me know what your availability is. And I think we have a couple others that maybe have some of those questions. If I get a lot of you that are coming through and having the same type of problems, I can set up a Zoom meeting with those that are still on and we can kind of all share the screens and walk through it together.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate the question.
No problem.
My
Alright.
question is,
Yes.
I don't know if I understood you correctly, but did you say that we're able to purchase the My Lab with our financial aid that we receive?
You should be able to, yes, if you're waiting for the question that I always get with students is because financial aid tends to take 2 to 3 weeks to kick in for most students after the start of the semester, I find that most of the time they're missing those first 2 or 3 assignments. In this case, you don't have to worry about that because the assignments are open until the end of the semester. But if you're waiting for your financial aid to come through to purchase it, yes, you will be able to use your financial aid to purchase the My Lab and Mastering.
Okay, and you said it's typical that it arrives around 2 to 3 weeks after classes start?
Yes, I would absolutely make sure to stay in contact with them because, you know, the first 2 weeks of the semester, there's a lot of shuffling around. Students are dropping classes and signing up for other classes. But I have found even when I was a student, it tends to take about 2 weeks for the government financial aid to kick into, right? Because UNTD is waiting for their money to come from the government so that they can distribute that money out through you. So just stay in contact with the financial aid office. But if you have any questions, you know, reach out to me. But like I said, in this case, you don't have to panic because you're not missing any deadlines as you're waiting for your financial aid to kick in.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Welcome to the course.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Feel free to ask questions. You can unmute yourselves. There's a small enough of a group. I'm gonna try and look at the chat features. Hold on 1 second. Okay, to make sure I understood, Jennifer, are you still on? Okay, to make sure I understood, reduction is individual components working, correct? Yes, so it's more or less, I'm looking at how does DNA work to create the larger organism, right? So I'm understanding how does A and T and C and G work together to create, right, the identity of what becomes the larger organism. So I'm looking at it at a very reduced level. I'm not looking at the whole bike. I'm just looking at the pedal. Does that make sense?
Yes, and then the systems is how all of them connect, correct? So it's like the same, but you're looking at it generally, not specific.
Right. So if I'm trying to say, let me think of a better example. So if I'm trying to say, I know that these subset of genes come together to give me eye color, right? I also want to understand what other pathways are involved with making sure that DNA becomes RNA, becomes blue-eyed protein. There's a lot of things that are in that pathway that are part of this system that could change the outcome of blue eyes, right? It may be light blue or a little bit of medium blue or dark blue, right? But it's all in that system's pathway that we have to make sure to remember. It's not just this gene for sure is going to equate to this. We know that there's a lot of things that take place inside of the cell, just the cell, without even the rest of the system of the body, right? But again, if we go back to our cancer example, if I'm looking at how cancer in lung tissue may affect the rest of the body if it gets out, well, I need to understand, how does blood flow work? What is the metabolism of that person? What's the environment like? What's the stress level, right? There's a lot of things that feed into that system to just understanding how lung cancer works. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, Jeffrey, I'm going to have a lot of questions this semester, especially about nerves and stuff. I want to be a neurologist. Okay, excellent. Do you know what other classes UNTD has to help me on that path? How will this link up with Bio 1730? So Bio 1730 is a separate course. The reason we do that is because some students only need to take the lab, or some students don't do awesome in the lab and they want to retake the lab. If we link the course lecture and the lab together, then you have to sign up for both. So technically those are two completely separate courses, but the material that you're learning in lecture will overlap with what you're learning in lab. It might not be the exact same timeline, but that's why we always encourage students, take the bio lecture with the bio lab, because you're going to get a lot of overlap if you've never taken either of those before. I hope that answers your first question. Got it. Have both of them this semester. Now, as far as neurology, so again, if I'm understanding correctly, neurologist, you want to be a doctor that does physical brain surgery, correct?
Not exactly brain surgery. I think that's like a neurosurgeon. I was thinking more like studying neurological disorders and treating them, or I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. So what I would encourage you to do, I mean, this class is phenomenal for that. If you would have to have this. And most importantly, as you enter into medical school, this will absolutely be a class that they will look at to see if you got a high successful course. You know, did you get an A, right? Because this is the foundation. You may not know that, but a lot of stuff that you're going to learn here is going to be the foundation of everything you go forward with, what genetics, cell, all those things. But as far as coursework that can help you, I teach a neuropsychopharmacology course, which is understanding how brains and behavior and drugs interact. So that might be an interesting course for the spring. And then I'm also working to develop and write a biology of the brain, of just understanding all the different, you know, lobes of the brain, and what do those lobes do for us, and how does the senses work inside of the brain. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, I highly encourage taking that. I also encourage, you know, cellular biology, and of course just anatomy and physiology as well.
I've taken an anatomy and physiology course. Oh my gosh, all the memorizing in that course is so hard. Oh man.
Yeah.
But I'll be taking another one. But yeah.
Yeah, and again, if it's, I think the neuropsychopharmacology course is a lot of fun. It's especially because, you know, we talk about psychedelics and we talk about, you know, marijuana and cocaine and how those things interact with the brain. So that's kind of that might be a fun introductory course, just to kind of look at aspects of how drugs interact with the brain. But as far as straight neurology courses of disease pathways, I haven't developed those courses just yet.
Okay, that's fascinating. Yeah, I'll definitely be signing up for that neuropsycho. What is it again?
Neuropsychopharmacology.
Neuropsychopharmacology. Okay, I'll be looking into that after this.
Well, welcome to the course. I'm grateful to have you.
Thank you. All right, you have a good day, ma'am.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Jennifer, any other questions? Nope. All right.